Beep! And we're back. So I had a look at it and it's recording, so that's good. So this will be part deux. Deux. We're Canadian, so we speak French. That means part two. Part two. Two. Project files. Okay. Gonna make that nice and big because I'm gonna make that like the part 2 make project files. Okay, leaving that up so that I can make that the thing on YouTube that it needs, so that you can see what this part is. Okay, project file in OGMO. Okay, so we're gonna switch over to OGMO. You go project, new project. Not a big surprise. You're gonna have to name it. We're gonna make a new folder here. I'm gonna call it OGMO 2. Okay, and we're gonna call our project OGMO tutorial Halloween. Okay, so we now have this file, and it jumps right into the editor where you edit the project. Okay, so first up is this little screen here. It's giving you the name, so we're gonna call it Halloween. It gives you some options for colors. We'll come back to that later. It's asking you, okay, it says if you rotate something, do you want that to be in radians or degrees? I say radians, because that's how I work. Never mind too much of that. We'll get back to this stuff. Level size. Okay, level size. You're probably thinking, oh, I wanna make a level, and I'm gonna make it with tiles, and my tiles are going to be 32 pixels by 32 pixels wide. So my levels are going to be X number of tiles by X number of tiles, right? OGMO doesn't measure the level in tiles. It measures it in pixels. So when you specify a level, you're going to say how many pixels it is, and that's actually important to the way that OGMO works. So first tip. Your level sizes are in pixels. Why? Because you can have grids. You can have more than one grid, and they don't need to be the same size. So you all know a tile grid is pretty much like this. Okay, tile grid is like where you have like tiles. Say that's a block, that's a block, this is Mario, hello, and this here, you know, this is like another block, and then this one is like a special type of block, maybe it's got some grass on it or something. So there's kind of like there's a grid here that, you know, that is like this, and this is just a little bit of info in case you don't really know what tiles are, which is totally cool if you're not sure what they are. Pretty much you just have like this grid, and you're gonna go in later and you're gonna be like plonk, 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 and lay down these little blocks here, and then those are gonna become your levels. So the question is, like, how big is this? And a normal size would be like 16, could also be 32 pixels. If we measure, this is probably like, I'm going to say it's like 115 pixels. Oh, 93 pixels. So it can be anything. And in OGMO, you might have like some stuff. You might want part of your game to be like a 32 pixel grid or a 16 pixel grid. And another part you might want to be a different size grid. And OGMO doesn't lock you in really with your project files, and so it's important to know that you can have different kind of grids, and I'll show you how this works. But you can have different grids, and they don't all have to be the same size. That's all I'm trying to say. So you can have like a grid for your objects, and that could be more finely tuned than like a grid for your tiles for your levels, which is actually what I do. So OGMO therefore wants you to size your levels in pixels. So you say this level is going to be 50,000 pixels long and 800 pixels tall for like a real long level. I don't even know I don't even know if my brain can handle a level that big, but you know, you could do it if you want. So it gives you like a default level size. This is like when you make a new level, how many pixels big is it going to be? Minimum level size and a maximum level size. So you can basically, if your game engine, you know, doesn't handle levels that are particularly big, or suppose you wanted only one screen of level, like only one screen levels, you could set those limits here, and it wouldn't let you sort of make levels bigger than that. It would limit you and say, hey man, you told me earlier that your levels could only be 8,000 pixels long at maximum. Now you're trying to tell me you want one that's 50,000 pixels. I think you must have made a mistake. You must have added an extra 0, and I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to have to deal with a bug where like your game crashes and stuff. So it's going to help you out that way by just limiting how big of a level you can make. You can always come back and change this stuff after if you decide you want bigger levels. So that's level size. Camera's going to give you basically a little box to see how much of your level is visible, and I'm actually not going to use it because I don't think I use it and I don't know how it works. So it's not a very good reason, but that's my reason. Okay, level values. This is something else. I'm going to come back to this, okay? The key thing I want to just talk about is level size and grid. So let's look at layers. Each layer in a project is a grid, okay? So second tip, each layer in OGMO is a grid. A layer can have, it could have tiles, or it could have objects, or it could have just like, it could have, what do we want to call it? It could have magic info. Okay, so layer can be one of those three things, but it can only be one of those three things. Okay, it can have tiles, objects, or magic info. And when you make a layer, you specify. Whoops. When you make a layer, you specify what that grid size should be. So each layer can have different grid size, and each layer can be one of those three things. It can be tiles, objects, or magic info. So let's look at our first layer here. We're going to call this magic 1. Okay, this is not the real technical term, but we'll make this a 20 by 20 grid. Okay, show you guys how this works. Scroll factor, leave that at 1. We'll come back to that later. And grid, that grid type is actually what I was calling magic info. Tiles are what I was calling tiles. Those would be for laying out your actual level, basically for laying out the graphics in the level. And entities are your objects, okay? So this is going to be a magic layer. We're going to call it magic 1. No, we're not going to call it that. We're going to call it walls, okay? So what this grid is going to be is it's going to represent where walls are in our level, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're basically going to go in with our little pixel, or not our little pixel, we're going to go in and basically click where we want a wall. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so we're going to hit apply. That saves it, and you'll notice OGMO, when you close a project, it gives you a new level. It just creates a random new level for you. I don't always love that, but let's call this test level 1. Okay, so we've made our project file at this point, and we've added a magic grid or a grid, and all a grid is basically it's a bunch of points. It's a bunch of blocks that are either 0 or 1. Okay, and if you wanted to make a game without any graphics, you could probably just use this, and inside of your game you could just draw like a block, you know, like a solid block where there was this. There's something about this which I have messed up, and I apologize that this is sort of wasting your time. Let's save this. Okay, project. Before you edit your project, you generally need to close your window. I want to change the background color because you know that previous window where it looked like I was drawing walls that were blue? Actually, it was the other way around. The walls were black, and I was drawing the background. In other words, I was actually deleting walls instead of drawing them. So we're going to make our background color black. So hex 00000, which just means black. And I think that's all I need to do. Except I want to set a color then for this layer. So this is going to be walls. So we're going to make it E, which is almost white. And we're good. Okay. Again, close that project and it creates us a new level. So I just closed that level, now I'm opening my other one. So now you can see what's going on. I'm just going to quickly, do this. Okay, so this is actually like a blank slate at this point. And this is just a grid. So grids are the magic info, or the most simple sort of info that you can have, and it just is basically a bunch of blocks that are either on or off. So they're binary. It's a binary data. It's a binary data thing. Okay. So let's just like make a level, because honestly, this is the most important thing about using OGMO is just drawing with it. Just feel that drawing tool and draw your walls, and it starts to become a space. Even though it's not, even though there's no game here, it's already kind of like a game. You could imagine. I mean, in your mind here, what's going on, right? Like, what are we drawing here? Is this a platformer where you go doot 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 doot, burp, burp, or is this like a Zelda game where you're like, go through here, oh, what's in this room? What's in this room? So you start to think about that as soon as you have shapes. So anyhow, so that's how these kind of layers work. And if you didn't want to do graphics in your game and you just wanted walls that were black or white, you could do it this way. I don't see why you couldn't do it this way. Hopefully in one of my tutorials I'll get into kind of like how you bring this into your game engine and how you use this stuff, but right now we're just talking about like how you make this. So pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, for these tutorials, pretend you're 10 years old and like you're just drawing all this crap and somebody's gonna make this game for you. And you know what, I just said something stupid because I just said pretend you're 10 years old, and I've seen, like, I know there are 10-year-olds out there that are actually making games that, you know, kick a lot of butt. And so if you're 10, pretend you're 5 years old. If you're 15, pretend you're 10. If you're 35, which is like almost how old I am, pretend you're 30. And then, you know, you're having someone else that's actually just going to make it. So I guess what I'm saying is these tutorials right now, just think of it as like, how do we make levels in the pure? So this is the first part of how we're going to make projects, and this shows you how you make a grid, a magic info grid. And I think what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm not going to stop this one yet. I'm going to show you how, like, oops, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to close this and then edit my project. I'm going to show you, let's add another layer. So we have walls. What about like water? Like, I want this to be like a Zelda game. So this is going to be like splashing around in the water. And again, grid is 20 by 20. Because it's water, let's just make the color for it blue so that we can see that it's water when we're drawing it. Okay, so we have walls and we have water. And we're going to hit apply to save it. Again, OGMO makes a new level for me, which isn't really what I want, so I'm just closing it and open my old level. You'll see it opens, and now we have water and we have walls. Now you'll see this little thing here, which I'll drag around. Woo, layers. As far as OGMO is concerned, it's going to let you pick like what layer you want to edit, and you really can only edit one layer at a time. So you use this layer tool to just pick what layer you want. If the layer tool disappears, it means that this this thing has been clicked or whatever, and so you just can click F1 to bring it up or hide it. So let's add some water. I think there should be like a little dangerous lake here. Maybe there'll be a sea dragon in it later. So we'll bring this up. We'll make sure we're clicked on water. We'll make sure I'm using this tool here, which is like the drawing tool. It's the pen tool. It's your basic tool. We'll cover the other tools later. You just click and draw, you know, the lake here. So this will be the dangerous lake. I'm gonna make it so it's like this, and that way if the hero walks in, she can come around here. Maybe there'll be like a box there, a treasure box. So if there's gonna be a treasure box, let's put like a wall there to kind of solidify it. And then let's imagine that they're coming in from here. So we'll leave that open, okay? So yeah, so this would be like our lake, and you'll see as you click, it's making this dimmer just because, just to make it easier to see the actual layer you're editing. It will sort of automatically dim stuff that you're not editing. So that would be like how you'd have water. And again, when you give it to the person who's 5 years younger than you, no, when you give it to the person who's 5 years older than you to actually make your game with programming and stuff, they're gonna make this water. The main thing for you is just like, how do you put this in, right? So that's gonna be water. I don't like the way this doesn't line up, so I'm gonna just erase that. I think let's do something else here. Let's make a pond here. Okay, this is a big pond. Now we'll go here, we'll draw this. Now, what happens, what do you do if your fingers get tired? This happens a lot when you're working on a computer. You get tired fingers. Maybe you don't want to click each of those little squares. Maybe you just want to use a filling tool, so you can click. See this? Flood fill? Voila! Okay. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to finish this section of the tutorial. Thanks for staying with me this long. I'm trying to make jokes, but I don't know if they're funny. First of all, filling tool. First of all, you click with the left mouse button to draw, and you click with the right mouse button to erase. And with the fill tool, okay, you can right click to erase. Okay, so I can erase that pond. Now, I'll show you what you do when you make a mistake. So I want to go in here and draw like a pond, and I'm like, okay, I'll just put a line there. Then I'll go to my filling tool. Then I'll click here. Oh my gosh, like what happened? Like, did you see that? Like everything suddenly turned blue. So you're wondering, did I just replace all my walls with water? Or you're like, what? What's going on? Okay, here's the thing. Here's what's going on. You got walls and you got water, and they're separate from each other. So you could have a square where you have only walls, or you could have a square where you have nothing, or you could have a square where you have only water. But you could also have like a square where you have both. So the point is they're separate layers. So if you use the flood fill tool, it only cares about the layer that you're editing. So it doesn't like care that there is that wall there where we had drawn, and it fills the whole screen, because as far as it's concerned, and I'm just going to hit undo, as far as it's concerned, this is what it sees, right? This is the water layer. So when you click fill, it does that, which is correct. But sometimes you will get confused because you're editing it like this, and you're like, oh yeah, fill that area, and you're like, what? And you think it's a bug, but it's not a bug. It's working. It's working how it's supposed to work, man. Okay, so to undo, you just Control Z, like in any normal, properly equipped software package. So we're gonna draw this back in. That'll be like I'm gonna erase this because I sort of just like it when it's kind of even instead. So yeah, so that's pretty much the start to a level. You can imagine how it's already gonna work. The hero's gonna come in here. They're gonna walk through. They're gonna be like, "What's this pond? It's kind of mysterious." Then they're gonna come around here, and then this pond is gonna have like a sea dragon. Maybe we'll have sea dragons here just so they could be like warned about it. They're gonna go doot 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 around the sea dragon, avoid the fire, and they're going to get their treasure, and they're going to come back out and go home. And that's what this is going to be. So we're already able to conceptualize it. We haven't futzed around with tiles or anything yet. We haven't actually put objects on yet, but we will do that in the next tutorial section. Oh gosh. So just to recap, magic info layers are called grid layers. They are just grids of blocks that are either filled in or not. And finally, they are orthogonal to each other, meaning that one is there and it doesn't care about the other, and they don't depend on each other. You can have a block that's both water and wall, and it's sort of up to your game to figure out what that means. Okay, so end of part 2. Okay, and I'm going to stop recording here. 3, 2, 1, beep.